So I thought I'd share some ideas that I have about leadership, and I'm sure many of you are going to be leading businesses and divisions and countries and stuff like that in the future, so listen up, and you can laugh at me. So I thought as I had lots of time, I'd start, 18 minutes is a lot of time to fill up, so I'd start right at the very beginning. This is where I was born, back in the 60s. Anyone recognize that in London? It's Guy's Hospital, Tooley Street. You know that area? Anyone? That's what it looks like today. It's changed quite a bit. Change is important. Change is quite a lot. That was me in the 60s. Thank you very much. And as you can see, I haven't changed at all. So it was a rough old neighborhood in Bermondsey, and you had to, I think any shoes that I did wear were already worn by at least 3 of my brothers before I got hold of them. And that, by the way, isn't me peeing up the wall. Just as one person said when they saw that. But yeah, now I have to pay to get holes in my jeans, you see, so things haven't changed that much. But so then when I was about 7, I was whisked off by my mum to Africa, and we had to escape a fairly rough environment that was created by my father, and we jumped from the frying pan into the fire. And in Africa at that time, it was apartheid, and there was petrol bombs going everywhere and being shot at 5 times a day, and that was all fun. So that's also a big indication of change. If anyone's been down to South Africa these days, amazing place, really great for Shalina, my wife up there, and I went on a honeymoon to Cape Town earlier this year, so it's a real big difference there too. So when I came back, I didn't go to university. I went to do an apprenticeship with a company called Allen Bradley's, and apprenticeships are making a comeback as well these days. But I used to make robots. And you guys, I'm sure, I've got something in my pocket here. So does anyone recognize one of these? If you can even see it from there. You recognize that? Micro SD? Yeah, little chip. 64 gig on this little thingy here, right? Hold on a minute. So this, anyone recognize what this is? This is a hard disk, okay? And this is a 10 megabyte hard disk. Now, my first job flogging computers, I used to only have to sell one of these a week, and I hit my target. 10 meg hard disk. So in other words, there's 6,500 of these in this. Right? So change. So I think the way we lead, the way we manage also probably has changed quite a bit. And I don't really like the thought of managing companies. I like to empower people to help themselves to lead the companies that they run. So I have a team of 14 direct reports. I don't have a PA. 4 of them were best men at our wedding, so a very, very close-knit organization. They've been in their jobs at least 10 years, which is pretty amazing for an internet company. I like to empower people. I like to empower people. Now, interestingly enough, around my boardroom, I have some etchings, and there's different etchings from different parts of Europe where we have our data centers. And I found a famous person from each of these places, and I've found something that famous person has said to try to epitomize the ethos of our company. So, for example, Dublin, we have a data center in Dublin. We have the likes of Google and Facebook and Amazon as customers out there. And George Bernard Shaw from Ireland, he said that the reasonable man adapts himself to the world, and the unreasonable man expects the world to adapt to him. All progress, therefore, depends upon the unreasonable man. Right? So think about that when you go along. Ask your questions. But sometimes it's very difficult to impart a message. Now, when I merged Telecity and Redbus together, 2 companies, back in 2005, you can imagine 2 companies that were head-to-head competitors for a long time, suddenly being merged together. And my management team were very worried, because very often you have consolidation means redundancies, people lose their jobs and things like that. So I said to people, look, don't worry, and I just couldn't get this message into people's minds that they shouldn't be worried about this. So I took them up to Scotland, management team, and we went across the Firth of Forth, if you know that area, and on the north side of the bridge, just underneath the bridge, there's a man-made aquarium, but it's so big you don't realize it's actually it's man-made, but you feel like you're really in the ocean. And I didn't tell them what we were doing, But we turned up there, and I asked them all to get into their wetsuits. And they looked at me slightly strangely, but they did as they were told, as good people. And then they put the breathing apparatus on, and then I pointed them towards the shark tank. That's me and my HR director, by the way. It's a real picture. So we dived with these sharks with no cages or anything else. And when we came out again, I asked the management team how they felt before they went in. And they said, "We thought you were crazy, I was swearing at you, I was so scared, I peed myself," and various other things. And I said, "Well, how did you feel when you were in there, actually down on your knees, down there, right, and face to face with these very, very big sharks?" And they said, "Well, I was still pretty scared. Couldn't tell whether I'd peed myself or not, but I felt excited, and really, it was a very, very exciting feeling." And I said, "Well, how did you feel when you came out?" And they said, "Well, it just was like a life-changing experience for me. I was so excited. It was really, really great." I said, "Well, okay, every time you have a problem in your life, every time there's an issue that you fear, right, go through that process in your mind. The chances are, A, it won't be as bad as you ever think it will be, but if it's really scary, it's exciting. And when you come out of it, you'll feel better. You will have grown as a person." Of course, the ones that I didn't want to carry on in the business, I gave them a little nick on the corner of their arm before they went in. That worked well. Anyway, but so then, of course, I did merge these companies together, and these two hated organizations came together, and they made this real market leadership position. And you can imagine, every now and again, there was two people that obviously, after years of fighting each other, didn't really get on so well in the management team. So I took them up to the North Pole. If anyone's ever been here, this is the Ice Hotel. They make it every year up in the North Pole. It's an absolutely fabulous place. Everything's ice. So the rooms are ice, the beds are ice. That's a bed. Really, really awesome stuff. The glasses are ice. If you drink enough, that slowly gets melted on the edge where you drink it. It's about -40. So I got them really drunk in the vodka bar first, and then I explained the sleeping situation. And you have to sleep two per bed for body warmth in this place. So all the ones that didn't get on well together, I made them sleep together. So in the morning, they were fine. They really were. They were really, really good. It's something about the fact that having drunk a lot, they needed to use the loo. And of course, the one thing you don't have in an ice hotel is a toilet, for obvious reasons. So you have to go outside and dig yourself a hole, but there's no electricity. So one of them had to keep watch and guide the other one back in at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then have to warm his feet up against his bottom. So, yeah, that worked. That was really good. So anyway, so we had this. The business is a recurring nature of business. So normally, right? It's probably the same with everyone. You start the year. It's like, oh, it's January. A rough old Christmas, and before you know it, it's Valentine's Day, and then and before you know anything else, it's Easter, and then you're into summer holidays, and then you've got to hit all your targets at the end of the year. So everyone goes crazy, like between September and December, trying to hit all your targets. Well, it's a load of nonsense if you've got a recurring business, because every order I get in January, I get 12 months value for, right? And if I get an order in December, it's almost worthless to me. So I had to impart this message. And people were struggling to understand the importance of a really, really hard push at the beginning of the year. So I took them to Lillehammer in Norway. And this is the Winter Olympic bobsleigh track. And if you think swimming with sharks, I'm sleeping with them as well. If you think swimming with sharks is scary, try this. This is very, 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 very scary. So if you imagine you've got a helmet which weighs about 3-4 kilos on your head, and you're experiencing 7G going around corners, left and right, in probably 5 times in less than a second, that is something else. So there's a professional driver there, of course, and then 3 of my team broken up into teams. And we were about, I think it was about 1 minute 20 from the top to the bottom. And I said, the world record is 1:02. So in other words, you've got to knock 18 seconds off. Right? And if we can get within 3 seconds of the world record, there's a prize for everyone. And of course, the first time they get in, they sit there, and they realize there's absolutely nothing you can do at all once you're going down the hill, other than hold your breath and pray. Right? So all of the difference, and by the way, we did get within 3 seconds of the world record. To get to the record is a bit different, but getting within 3 seconds. And it's all about the push at the beginning. So we found out that a 4-second improvement at the bottom can be made by just a 0.4-second improvement at the push at the top. So getting people used to the understanding, a little bit more effort at the beginning can drive fabulous results at the end. So then we made a very successful company, and we listed it, as Friedrich was saying, listed 5 years ago last week. Probably chose the absolute worst time in history to list a company on the stock market, but we've been incredibly successful, mainly luck than judgment, I'm sure. But so the interesting thing here is when you become a public company, people have to be very careful of what they say about the business. So when you're a private company, you can say, oh, we're going to do $1 million next year, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. As a public company, it's considered insider information. You've got to be very careful how you speak. So to impart this little message, I took them to Tallinn. And that was great. Picked them up in little trabants from the airport, which was quite a cute idea, I think. Nearly blew them up. But so we had a lovely meal in the middle of this 13th century little town of Tallinn, and afterwards we're walking down beautiful cobbled streets, and about 10 o'clock at night, and these big old doors opened up, and 15 Kalashnikov-carrying KGB agents dragged my team inside, roped them to chairs, and interrogated them. And every one of them said something they shouldn't have said. It was absolutely terrible. It was terrible. So they realized that actually they need to be a bit more careful about what they say under pressure. So, yeah. No, well, you know, so actually a very serious point, though. About 2 years ago was one of the big jumps in our growth trajectory, and it was also a very, very challenging time in the industry. So the targets that I'd given them were quite aggressive. But they were moaning a lot. They were saying, you know, we're not going to do this. You know, I have children to feed. I'm not going to get a bonus. And moan. So I took them to Auschwitz. Sorry. And in Auschwitz, something very special happened to my management team. They stopped moaning. And when they stopped moaning, they started to get on with driving real value out of the business. Because trust me, after that, everything's a cakewalk. It really is. So I thought that I would leave you with a couple of other etchings around my boardroom. And two of them we apply a little bit of poetic license. So the etching for Milan is actually Sophia Loren. And she's not really from Milan, she's from the south of Italy. But so she says that mistakes are the fees we pay for living a full life. So bear that one in mind. Don't worry about making mistakes. It just means you're doing stuff. And the other one, which is my final words to you, Napoleon for Paris, which again, complete fake because he was from Corsica. But anyway, it works for us. Napoleon said that in victory, we deserve champagne. And in defeat, we need it. Thank you very much.